what's one of the hardest part of game development, especially for solo devs? Animation. You can make a character, make a scene, assets, and even full game level. But to make it move nicely, animated, that's where things get hard, right? So in this video, I'm gonna show you how I created 3D character and scene with AI and then used Cascadeur to make animation way easier. It has auto posing. You can add automatic motion between keyframes, fix collision, and add realistic physics. And in recent updates, generate animation with AI and preview live in Unreal Engine. Sounds great, let's get started. Steph here again, and let me introduce you to an amazing tool for animation. Just recently this year, I was covering high motion and NVIDIA Kimono, which you liked a lot. But just 5 days ago, Cascadeur dropped a really huge update. And this is way more than paper, because that organically fits in the whole tool that gives perfect solution. But before we dive into the Cascadeur, let's do some preparation very quick. So here's the idea. I did quick blocking of a construction site where we're gonna make this parkour animation. So my idea is to make the guy run like that, do some tricks, and then he will go slowly here and potentially jump. So that should be enough to actually stress test it. Quite long animations. We have different levels of animations, and of course we're gonna do a parkour tricks. Cool? I think yes. To make it really exciting and to show you guys something really amazing, we took it serious. So we prompted quite nice construction sites. We decided on style, and then we built up the whole blocking in Blender. Why in Blender? Because it's way easier to build up primitives in Blender rather than just generating. Again, that's just a bunch of rectangles if you think about it. And for some generic assets, we actually took them from Sketchfab. Just some free assets like this crane. When blocking was complete, it was time to texture it. Since we were dealing with the very big surfaces, it doesn't make sense to texture them with AI, since AI maximum will texture it as a 4K. For this big object, it's definitely not enough. So instead, we quickly applied materials in Substance Painter. It all took less than 30 minutes to do. Same things apply for labels and text. Through decals, you can add them really easy on the objects and then bake them in textures after all. So as you can see, we did the base for the level quite fast and easy. But it's now quite boring, right? And here we start creating assets. Okay, so with ChatGPT and Nano Banana, we created a bunch of prompts that we gonna need for the scene. There was quite a lot, almost up to 15 prompts. And these prompts we actually need to generate with AI. And thanks a lot for Tripo. That was very easy to do. So we're gonna use Smart Mesh, and I'm gonna set the right amount of polygons for each, since I really want my scene in Unreal Engine be quite optimized. For props, my personal opinion, this optimized mesh is absolutely amazing. And when you're happy with the result, you can generate it a few times with different polygon and see which works the best. Then go to texture and texture it. And just like that, we have the prop ready. I mean, guys, altogether it taking like 3 to 4 minutes. In Unreal Engine, we are intent to use Toon Shader. So lucky for us, we can even preview it here on a flat color. In Toon Shader, it's only albedo used really. So that's also quite nice. In similar way, of course, I created the rest of the assets. I really recommend if you're a professional and you know how much polygons approximately needed for the assets, that's great. This tool, you're gonna max it out. But for those who don't know, the lower polygons you can get keeping the shape right, the better, right? That will be just an optimized asset. Also, don't use 4K texture wherever, because that's just not needed. Like for small parts, you can definitely go over 2K and that will be enough. In Tripo also, for some assets, you can actually generate not only texture, but also add the PBR. Of course, I'm not gonna lie, it requires some polishing setup in Blender with maps and stuff. Like sometimes you're gonna want to drop and like fix small thing, but that's very easy to learn and not a big deal. And just like that, look how many awesome assets we created like less than a half day. That's amazing. Pretty much the same way I generated character, of course, in parts. And I do have dedicated video about characters, and more are coming with updated flow. So like and subscribe, guys, to not miss it out. And yeah, as you can see, all parts are pretty much flawless. I mean, it's like amazing. So when all parts are generated, again, I also used Smart Mesh because I just generated them right away, optimized, textured them. Sometimes I also add PBR. For my case with Toon Shader, it's not that needed, but can add additional detail. After all, of course, I assembled here in Blender. I lined all parts together, fixed some stuff, did some cleanup for the rigging. I show this process quite often on my channel. If you want to learn that, guys, you can definitely do it. Just take a look on the videos or jump in my Discord, guys. We're gonna help you do that. Character done, scene done, time to assemble everything together. And now we can actually script the animation. So because now I see where all the obstacles are, where all the equipments are, and we can prepare it for the animation. This is actually a very important step because we're gonna drop this blocked scene in Cascadeur as well to work around it. And here you can see I actually duplicated a part of it, which will be related to animation. And I'm gonna actually remove the materials from it and save as a collision. So we can use that in Cascadeur. As for the character, I will rig, basically adding a skeleton in Mixamo as usual. And Cascadeur works very well with Mixamo skeleton. And if you guys also want to try Tripo, by link in the description, you get extra 500 credits. Give it a try. Or if you consider to buy subscription, there's also a promo code there. Now, Cascadeur part. Okay, so let's open the Cascadeur and let's create a new scene. That's super easy. And as simple as it can be, we're gonna drag and drop FBX file with our character. Now, it will also suggest to create a rig, and that's exactly what we need. Since we used Mixamo, our skeleton is recognized very nice, and we can create a proper rig around these bones. Now, what's the difference between skeleton and the bones? The skeleton of Mixamo contains quite a lot of bones. You can see them here listed, 65 and more. That's pretty standard for a skeleton. Rig, however, is a control points, how you control all of that, and together with like some inverse kinematic, forward kinematic, it's way easier to control the skeleton, not controlling all 65 bones one by one. Now, while my character is simple and using standard skeleton, Cascadeur does amazing job improving the quick rigging tool, and that's why a lot of professionals actually use it. You can drop a completely custom skeleton and you'll be still able to recognize the skeleton and add up like proper rig, but it's way easier than do that manually. So here you can see you just define which bone is pelvis, which bone is shoulder, etc, etc. It works very nice with non-standard characters, and with most recent update they also added support for quadruped animals and creatures. Guys, this is really valuable. For me, animating animals was an area I thought I'd never go before. Now I consider trying that. Now we have our character in scene, and let me quickly break down what's happening here and what you can do. So let's click on this menu, and here is the main tool, which is auto posing. So it's already selected, and what it allows you to move rig, and it will make the rest of the body follow. This is by itself already an amazing tool. It is pre-trained. The algorithms here are smart. So like you can see, the movement is actually adjusted. Of course, you have quite deep control about it. You can lock and unlock some parts. It's done very easy. Just right click and you can see if you lock something, it will not be affected by this auto posing. So most of the time, we're gonna use this tool to set some frames, and the rest will be done with the animations. Of course, you can move stuff around in global and local chords. Also, to explain UI a little bit, at the top, you can see the setting about the ghosts. We're gonna use it later. That basically previewed the previous or upcoming frame as a ghosted version of the avatar, and you can set amount of ghosted copies. We're gonna use that for sure. Here you can set the ghost mode and silhouette mode if that will be easier for you. Another thing is to show trajectory and how you show it. Again, for all of the options like in between animation and root motion, we're gonna use that, and we can actually control that. So adding and removing frames is very easy. Just select the timestamp and press F. F for frame, of course. So now if I create a simple in between animation, so now here if I open this menu and create some simple Bezier animation or anything and turn on trajectory, you'll see the exactly how this select points through time. And there's even an edit mode, so if you turn this animation to fix it, and then we can even edit each moment of time and trajectory. And also you can see how this ghosted preview works, which we selected previously. Pretty amazing tools if you ask me. There you can enable disable grid and do a few more views if you need it. Here in auto posing you have few more settings, such as like enabling hands if you wanna work with hands. That's the basics that we need to know, and now let's actually start cooking. Now I'm gonna drag and drop my collision, which is the blocked scene. And how about we actually locate it? We're gonna locate it on the ground level, because for the first part, I'm gonna show you in betweening. Now, note is very important. There is two ways of do AI animation: in between animation and root motion. The root motion is most advanced and most excited. We're gonna cover a little bit later, but it's also very useful in between animation that I want to show you, which is algorithmic and has less settings, but can be also very useful. But however, it meant to be on the floor. So since I'm gonna use it here, I'm gonna make sure my last floor is on top of my collision, is under the ground level. And now it's very simple. Let's set the frames and set right pose with auto posing enabler. And just to let you know, guys, I'm not a professional animator. I'm also new to this, but I'm super excited and I gave it a try and I was amazed how far I can get with it. And I actually did something decent. And watch this video until the end, because that was actually a decent result. Okay, so I actually got these 3 frames done. Okay, and now we're gonna select all these frames and we can just add Bezier animation, and that's nothing interesting, right? It's just like a smoothing. But of course, we're not here for this. So we're gonna select them again and we're gonna press this in between button, and it's completely different result. So let's preview the animation. Okay, so now our character walking. We just actually did 3 frames, which was not that hard because we got auto posing and we already have the character actually doing something. Looks nice. Of course, it's not polished, and I show you more options how to further improve that. Now let's move to the second part and show you how people actually use it, and professionals as well. You can actually drop reference animation, and here I got some video, and the only thing we need to make sure is that the frame rate of the video is the same frame rate as we do have in scene. Let's wait it process, and then we're gonna locate it somewhere here. So now let's find the frame where we want to actually start doing that animation. Gonna press on the object, and here in texture constraint you can choose the starting frame, so which will be the 70, and now it only start playing animation on 70 frame. And guess what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna do exactly the same thing. I will try to do these poses for 5 to 6 important poses, and then we're gonna do the in-betweening. And bit by bit I was actually making very good progress. And now we're gonna repeat the same process for a jump of the second floor, and here I want to do the Arabic flip, or like side flip. Pretty much the same process, but I was trying quite a lot and still my animation was looking very bad. But with these tools alone, it is very difficult to make the animation look right. That's where I'm gonna introduce you to more tools that helps to clean it up, and one of them is of course the enabling physics. So here let's enable that physics. Now the previous animation track I split just to not overload my PC, and here I'm gonna demonstrate you how to use the physics. So first of all, since I actually moved the platform to the top and there is no ground, we actually need to let it know that there is a new ground, and which is our collision. So if we enable physics right now, you can see it actually don't understand why things and made it like flying to the space. It's because it thinks that the character is in air all the time and is jumping. So we're gonna select the object, go to collision and add kinematics. Now it's a different thing, okay? And now we can see our jump became more natural. In physics, you also have this ghost offset that I was using that should preview the physics in my version, okay? And here we can see that with physics, it actually adds more logic, and you can play with a lot of settings. The gravity, you can add it or not add it, stiffness, dumping, and all these parameters in the list. And after a while, I was able to achieve some really nice results. So now the movement looks more natural, and even though it's like quite really difficult motion, I was able to achieve something close to the reference. I definitely need more practice on that, but guys, let me know what you think about it. Also in Cascadeur, of course, you do have access to IK, FK, and their own GK, which stands for Global Forward Kinematics or something like that. And you can definitely use that to fix some limbs rotations and movement. So in my case here, I was trying to fix arms with FK to make it smoother and not going too wild. And that was actually successful. But now guys, let me introduce you the most recent new AI tool, which is very similar to NVIDIA Kimura, which you might expecting to see here. And yes, there is. It works a little bit different. You're not just prompting the action. You also do set some frames, and you set the pose, and then you have this option for root motion where you can play with with different settings and different styles, such as run, walk, acrobatics, jump, and it will try to do the following movement. We're gonna press R button to generate that root motion. And also what you need to know is that this is a diffusal AI, which always gonna generate different movements. So if you're not happy with it, it's not same as in between animations. You can press a few times and it will always give you different results, especially if you're gonna play with styles like acrobatics. I found very interesting example of someone testing all different styles, and you can see the same actions, and here you can see how in same poses different styles work. So like jump, acrobatics, there's a ground which actually will force it to make a crunch, and there's like a lot of animations. For example, acrobatics can give you some quite cool flips such as this rise and more. So definitely this is one of the main tools, but in some way there's also less control, but you can always add more poses. Here you can see how I actually made the crunch and so forth. And I also started to assemble this last part where my character goes on top of that metal beam, and there was like quite dangerous moments, so I had to also play with the hand animation. So you already might know, like basically the same auto posing, trying to use all the tools, all these AI tools, and come up with the results. Don't forget guys, if you want the physics and all that stuff work, you're gonna need to add these objects to collision. And what I also know that it also works with some holdable objects, and the Cascadeur does amazing job like with weapons, shields, and all that stuff. That will be concluded, and that will be taken into the account when calculating the physics, the motion and stuff. And here guys, I want to show you the final part, which actually shows how amazing tool, and that is not only for the beginners, it's not only to create animation from scratch, it's also to polish your animations. You can also combine ready-made animation. You can drop them here and combine them in one track. So here I was doing like all that stuff and it was not looking that great. So there are different approaches altogether. This blue is a baked animation from previous step, and here you can see it's not really looking natural, right? So this jump is awful, right? But now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna add physics to this object, the collision. I'm gonna make this all animation, fix it, and add out of physics. So this is how I understand it works, and it will recalculate it based on the physics settings, and my action becomes way better. So let's take a look on this all together. Okay, take a look on the green avatar, right? Wow, okay, it looks so nice. All right, and then we have, and even the jump, you see like when he jumps on the beam, like this sort of dump, it was amazing. And yeah, I mean, physics polished this line. I mean, I was almost frustrated at some points, but yeah, I knew that I need to do this step later, and then we can press snap to the physics, and basically our track will be snapped to the physics, right? So it's like a baking. And the last part is to bake the animation and retarget it to our character. Actually, that was quite easy to do. We can select all frames. We're gonna select the character in pose, select it all, and retargeting copy. Then we're gonna go to our character in the scene and just gonna add same amount of frames, select the avatar and retargeting paste. Wait a little bit, it process, and now we can actually press play and it works. So at this point you can pretty much move it to the Unreal Engine. But I haven't enough time to test the most recent update that was actually released the moment I was making the video. There is also a live link where you can drop the character in Unreal Engine and sort of like preview the animation right away in scene. That might be useful in many times, so you don't need to do this process back and forward. This is how animation works, like back and forward, back and forward. And when I was talking about retargeting, and this is also very important tool that solves a lot of headache for professional artists. And I know many pros use this tool to do a retargeting. As you can see, like they do handle like difference in the proportions, different skeletons. That's actually not that easy if you try to do that in any other software. Yes, of course, they still continue improving that, but that's a huge thing. So the professionals can drop the animation here, do rigging animations, retarget, or they can drop their existing animation and actually polish it, make it more realistic with physics and so forth, with the collision and all that other options. And you saw how physics smoothen and recent root motion in Cascadeur even better than NVIDIA Komodo for me. That has more control control, and it's built into this ecosystem. Like, you can polish it on top of the physics, and I believe very soon in Cascadeur we're gonna see something that NVIDIA Kimono can do, like generating the free motion as well. So guys, subscribe, I will keep you posted. I contacted Cascadeur. They're quite nice guys and huge professionals knowing what they're building. As usual, you can find it in the description. And now it's time to bring it all to Unreal Engine. Boom! Guys, if you want separate video about how I created this scene and the character, built up all together, generated the assets, fine-tuned them, I can create a separate video. I have all the recordings. Just let me know in the comments if you want it. Let's add the animation to our scene, do some preparation, and I also did some camera movement. And here's the final result, guys. That was actually my first real try into the animations on that scale. I mean, that complete more than 1000 frames track in game, that looks like something decent. Let me know what you think in the comments, and see you in the next video.